Okay, hat's there, everything's all good. Let's see if I can still do this here. 2025. Cool. Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and Happy New Year. I just wanted to say here that I was taking a little bit of an upload break, so if you haven't seen me for a bit, that's not your imagination. Just haven't uploaded for a few weeks here. For a few reasons, nothing all too bad here, but when you decide to just like take a break for a bit and you do enjoy yourself, but then Nintendo announces their new system and they kind of just like drop it. Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. And now I will say here, this is going to be more of a off the cuff video, and I do have some thoughts I wanted to share. And well, it'll probably be a little long winded just because that's kind of what I like to do here. But hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel here. If this is your first time, welcome, of course. Happy New Year yet again. And I just wanted to say this real quick because I rarely do this, but I decided to just take a few weeks off because in short, not only the holiday season gets really busy for me, and this last one wasn't as bad as other ones, but in short, I got sick, and then I got sick, and then I got sick. So by the time I was trying to start healing on my third sickness, this is a pretty appropriate visual for what was going on.
Kind of fruity when you... Yeah, that was good. My teeth feel gritty, and I'm gonna lie down.
So you could probably see and understand why I just needed to wait a little bit until, well, I was going to come back here. But there was another video I had planned. It's still going to be coming out, but we're going to be talking about the Switch 2 because, well, that's what it is, the Switch 2. For anybody who does not know, this was, like I said, announced as a little bit of a stealth drop where it's like quite literally this morning I woke up, I saw some news about the Switch 2, and lo and behold, about 30 minutes prior to me waking up, Nintendo ended up dropping the Switch 2 announcement video. It was just a couple minutes long, and it really just showed a few things that were going on. I will say here just kind of my off-the-cuff thoughts of it, just right off the bat when I watched it. My thought wasn't even, wow, I'm really impressed at this console. I think maybe this is just where I'm coming from, like the video aspect of it. But I looked, and I think anybody else who like works on video could probably laugh and agree with this here. I was like, wow, these renders look really good. And this is incredibly detailed. Like, how expensive was this to make? How long did this video take? But we ended up seeing a few things. The two things of big interest to me were that there were two USB-C ports, so I guess we're going to see what we'll be able to do with two of them. And the second thing that I ended up seeing was that the new Joy-Cons, which seem to connect, I guess magically, or not really with that, but more with, they seem to be magnetized. That's what I'm trying to say. Magnets, how do they work? The new Joy-Cons seem to have what I perceive is a mouse type functionality, which if games actually make use of that on the Switch 2, that would be awesome, especially for some of those like point and click adventures and all that. That would be great, and I'd be willing to see and be interested in seeing what other opportunities can be made for that. My only fear is that the mouse functionality, if it is there, is going to be the same as HD Rumble. And if you don't know about that, it was advertised and it was shown and showcased when the original Switch was first announced. And then we ended up getting that functionality in only like a handful of games. It was probably most dominantly used in 1-2 Switch, which I will say, in my opinion, was a decent tech demo for the Switch and showing what it could do. And if you actually tested the HD Rumble and such on there, it was really impressive what they were able to do with the minigames. The problem was it was a little too lacking and a little too wacky to be a $50 tech demo. I still think they should have just packed it in with the system and that would have gone over much better, but alas, I mean, what can we do? The past is the past. I will say the big reason why this didn't surprise me all too much is because actually on an episode of Mario's Minute with Jason from PlayStation Library or Game Rave TV, we actually ended up discussing some Switch leaks, which if you follow the channel historically, I really don't talk about console leaks at all, but the reason why I did cover these ones about 3 or 4 months ago is because they were some renders and such that showed what could potentially be the Switch 2, and I remember looking at them and I just had this feeling like, this is too good to be fake. Like, this actually seems plausible. So because I saw those, when I end up seeing the announcement trailer here, it was more like, okay, I mean, that was pretty much what I expected there. It has been confirmed there is going to be backwards compatibility as well too, so that original Switch software, physical and digital, should work on the Switch too, but they did make sure to mention that not all games are going to be compatible. It's probably going to be similar like a PS4 to PS5 situation where there's a handful of games on the PS4 that are not backwards compatible on the PlayStation 5, but other people are also bringing up a good point as well too, that because of how the new Joy-Cons are going to be, not only they connect differently, but they are also going to be bigger. That means that there's going to be specific hardware on the original Switch that is not going to work properly on the Switch 2. I know Nintendo Labo, if there's stuff designed around that, it's probably not going to work directly. And the one that I would be upset about is this right here. This is the Ring-Con for Ring Fit Adventure. Great game. You play it pretty much every day, almost. I just don't play it on the weekends. That's the thing. But you can see right here, in order to connect it, you have to take the right Joy-Con and you end up sliding it in and out, which is not going to work for the Switch 2 Joy-Cons, unfortunately, because they're going to be bigger and they're going to be magnetized. So maybe the only way you can get games like that to work is maybe before it boots up, the Switch 2 will have a disclaimer, say something like, this software requires the Switch 1 Joy-Cons, and like the original Switch Joy-Cons, and they will not work in connected mode. They must be, wireless on here. So please get your accessories. Please get original Joy-Cons. This game will not work with Switch 2 Joy-Cons. That's what I predict is going to happen. But if those games get blocked out completely from the Switch 2, that's going to be a disappointment. Also, I'm just going to ask real quick. I love Ring Fit Adventure, but like Nintendo, can you please make this more robust or something, or give us some better options? I'm gonna tell you all, I've been playing this for years now. This is my third Ring-Con right here. I play it so much that I literally get these things like out of whack and out of order, and they actually impact gameplay. This is the third one that I've had to buy. I even wanted to go so far, as a tangent here, I wanted to go so far as I end up buying another ring like this, not a Nintendo one, but I bought another ring like this for about $20 or so, and I was taking this apart because I was thinking it'd be a cool video and also beneficial for me directly to like move the components from this over to like a bog standard exercise ring like this, right? Unfortunately, it does not work that way. When I end up opening it up, in short, they kind of had to like cut into the ring itself here, and there's like metal and all that in there, and the way I looked at it, I'm like, well, best case scenario, I can like Dremel it and put it onto another ring and it'll work kind of poorly. Worst case scenario, I'm going to just damage this thing and or myself. So I had to track down another one of these here, right? But give me better options, please. That's what I ask. The nice thing is, though, with the backwards compatibility is that not only most of your existing Switch library should work on the Switch 2, but on top of that, Nintendo doesn't have to stop selling the Switch library, because, I mean, let's face it as well, too, there's good reasons why a older game such as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still a top-selling game year after year, almost month after month. Actually, I think a lot of the time, month after month. Why? Because it's a good game. People still want to play it. People still want to buy copies of it. So if it can just run better and look better on the Switch 2, then they really don't have to repackage it or anything. However, I did want to take some time to make a one-off video talking about this here, because the one thing that I really noticed with the Switch 2 announcement was that it was incredibly safe. And that kind of goes back to me not really being like wowed or impressed or surprised by anything on here. Because really, when it comes down to it, and I'm not saying this to negate anything on the system itself, this is just a Switch, except bigger, better, more powerful, and it does exactly what it does for a successor. This is the safest route that you can go for a Switch successor. It's not called the new Switch. It's not called the Switch U. It's not called the Super Switch. It's called the Switch 2. Which, I mean, it's not like this is exclusive, right? But they are kind of taking it out of Sony's playbook, because PlayStation, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, those are not intriguing, interesting, like original names by any means. It's just saying, hey, there's an iteration, there's a +1 each time here. But it's also simple enough that it's going to get the point across here. I know Nintendo didn't want to make their same mistake and really like looking at the sales and such. I know when it comes to this, the Switch has been one of the greatest selling systems ever, and an incredible success for Nintendo. Just looking at the console sale numbers, for example, it's beat out the Wii already. The only other Nintendo system it has to beat now in terms of sales is going to be the DS, and it's about 14 million sales away from catching up to the PlayStation 2, which is still the greatest selling console of all time. So what I'm trying to say here is that Nintendo sees that, they're aware of that, and they are not trying to kill that gravy train because they have done it a few times before. They did it when they went from the DS to the 3DS, and yes, even though there was a lot more models of the 3DS out there, from what I'm seeing, the Nintendo DS over its lifetime ended up selling about 154 million units, and the 3DS, its direct successor, sold about half of that. And you got to keep in mind and remember that there were a lot more models and more options of the 3DS available. And of course, we've seen this too in terms of home consoles with Nintendo. Probably the biggest drop-off was going from the Wii, which sold just about 101 million, to going to the Wii U, a direct successor, which sold about 13.5 million. Pretty big drop right there. So like I said, if they just call it the Switch 2 and it's just a bigger, better Switch that does pretty much the same stuff except better, that's what they're wanting. They're trying just not to have that massive dropout like they've had with the other two systems. And I get it. So overall, as of January 16th of 2025, we now know there's no more rumors or anything. We now know that the Switch 2 is called the Switch 2. It has been announced. We're going to find out more information in April, I believe, during that direct. So I'm sure we're going to see more about the pricing, the features, just things like that. So we just gotta wait about another 3 months or so. So I know that I will be talking more about the Switch 2. I do plan to pick one up as well. Okay, admittedly, probably more than one. But the last thing I want to talk about, because I'm sure people are going to ask me, because, you know, I do cover a lot of game modding, console modding, and such here on the channel. What about the aspect of modding this system? What do I expect here? Well, I'm not sure if they'll be able to make quite the jump, but in terms of actual hardware security and console security on here, I believe we're probably going to see a similar security jump like we saw from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to do the exact same security architecture and everything that the Xbox One and I guess the Xbox Series end up doing, but when it comes to the actual quality of security, we're probably going to see a big jump like that, because that's been one thing for Nintendo that has, I wouldn't say hurt the Switch in terms of sales, but let's just be honest here, it's something that they certainly have not liked. And the thing that I've noticed with it as well too is there's essentially 3 models. There's more SKUs, but there's 3 models of the original Switch. You have the original one, you have the Lite, and you have the OLED. And you have to keep in mind that the original Switch ended up, this is not an original, this is of course an OLED right here, but the original one was susceptible to that boot ROM exploit, the very first run of them, in which you had to remove the right Joy-Con. You end up putting a jig in there, which ended up shorting a couple pins. Then you had to do a little button combination to boot it up properly, and you pushed a payload through the USB port on here. That's what the original Switch boot ROM exploit was like. They ended up patching that up pretty quickly, and they issued new hardware in order to patch that bug. But the thing is, after that, any Switch, I'm not talking Switch 2, but the original, like the original Switch, the Lite, the OLED, every single one can be modified. But after that, they end up using a hardware method where you have to essentially take a chip, install it in there, and then it ends up glitching the system. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because even after they did the revisions, even after they went, you know, after sellers, after Team Executor, after all these companies and places and people and such, when the Switch OLED ended up coming out, you got to realize they really did not make an effort to eliminate modding the system itself. In fact, from what I remember, within 24 if not 48 hours of the Switch OLED launching, people had shown that they were able to modify the system and get things such as Hecate or even Atmosphere custom firmware running on the system themselves. What Nintendo did for the OLED was they did not block it from being modified, they did not patch it directly, they just made it a lot harder to modify. That is one of those things. Modding a Switch OLED is one of the hardest mods out there that you could do, but it's possible. And really all Nintendo did was they just made it a lot more difficult to modify, but they didn't block it out completely. So I expect that those vectors and loopholes and entry points are probably going to be blocked the best they could on the Switch 2. We'll see what happens. Anyways, that's about it for this video here. I hope you all enjoyed it. Lily, really? You're just walking off? Like, okay. Clearly, she's kind of done with this video, so I guess I should wrap it up here as well, too. But either way, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well, too. And let me know of your thoughts over the Switch 2. Are you going to be picking one up? Are you kind of done with it? What's up with that there? I know a lot of people, kind of a tangent here, a lot of people have really looked towards the Steam Deck as their replacement Switch, or kind of a Switch Pro or Switch 2 in a way. I'll put it like this, right? It's not the emulation is bad, it's far from that. It's really just, for me, 1, the Steam Deck is big, and 2, the battery life is not great on it. I have a Steam Deck. I love it. Ergonomically, it's comfortable, but that battery life just really kills it for me. And that's just something with gaming computers, not gaming laptops in general, I've had an issue with, but that's a whole other video and a whole other thing to talk about. Either way, for real, I am signing off now. Thank you all for watching. Again, if you enjoyed it, like it. If you didn't, dislike as well too. And let me know of your Switch 2 thoughts. This is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone.